We find ourselves on the coast of Anhelt, where the wind carries the echoes of past battles, and thousands of orcs, lizardmen, skinwalkers, and ogryn were driven from their homelands by human fanatics during the Red Crusade. One of them was a massive ogryn with a name spoken only in fear by the locals, Maneater. When he arrived in the misty swamps of the Sorrowlakes, he was alone. The strangers who saw him there knew nothing about him, except for the crime he had once been accused of in Arnok. "He has killed dozens of men and eaten their flesh," whispered one of the villagers as they watched him warily. But the ogryn could neither deny the rumor nor reveal his true name. His tongue had been cut out by those who had condemned him. Reading and writing, that too was beyond him. Every attempt to teach him how to put his thoughts to paper ended in utter failure. Despite his grim past, Maneater found a new home in a lizardmen village. He spoke to no one, but he worked hard, volunteering for every heavy task. Years passed, and while he barely changed, the village began to accept his presence. Yet his true nature remained a mystery. Whenever he was alone, he withdrew to the shore, fishing for hours, as if searching for something in the water that only he could see. Then came the day when the Gale and war hosts began recruiting men. Officers disembarked from their ships, scouring the village for volunteers. "That man-eater," murmured one of the officers. "Surely he will be eager to fight." But the ogryn only shook his head in silence. The warships of the Galen Pact set sail for Anhelt without him. Those left behind watched with heavy hearts as they disappeared over the horizon. What horrors awaited these ships? And what would happen if the campaign failed? Nearly a decade later, sails reappeared on the horizon. This time they belonged to an army of elves and men from Aravia, Karok, and Frostheim. They came to the Sorrowlakes, driven by vengeance. Panic spread through the village, and a makeshift militia was formed. No one believed Maneater would fight. But to their surprise, he stepped forward, a massive hammer in his huge hands. "Are you sure?" asked a lizardman, his expression filled with disbelief. The ogryn nodded silently. His eyes glowed with determination. As the forces of the Telerian League charged forward, they encountered the ragtag group of villagers. The invaders, their minds consumed by madness, swung their axes with deadly precision. From the start, the battle was hopelessly one-sided. Armed only with courage and crude weapons, the villagers stood little chance, but they did not falter. Strangely, not one of them fell that day. Even those who were struck by sharp blades rose unharmed. No blood flowed from their wounds. In the midst of the chaos stood Maneater. A low, eerie growl escaped his throat. He defended himself with the hammer, but never struck. Those who looked closely noticed something unsettling. Though no enemy had touched him, wounds had opened in his flesh, and blood dripped endlessly from his chin. One of the invaders cried in horror before fleeing. "What kind of magic is this?" The exhausted villagers did not follow. Instead, they turned back to find their mysterious comrade collapsed on the ground, drenched in his own blood. "Maneater," someone whispered in awe. "He sacrificed himself for us. His blood saved us." But the blood on his lips was his own. Slowly, they realized the truth. He had used an ancient protective spell, a power that made them invulnerable at the cost of his own life force. They carried him back to the village and nursed him back to health. But the questions remained. For Maneater could not answer them. He could not reveal his secrets. All that remained was their gratitude, and the quiet, unspoken fear of something they would never fully understand. Which tales from Teleria do you want to hear next? Just let me know in the comments. And if you like the stories, I would be very happy about a like or a subscription. That way you support me and this channel.